3 moves. 1 aggressive offseason. And suddenly the Chicago Bears can create over $100 million in real flexibility. So the question is, are the Bears finally ready to stop playing it safe? Like this video, share it with another Bears fan, and subscribe for daily Chicago Bears coverage. Let me ask you something right away. If you were running this front office, would you actually be brave enough to pull the trigger on major cap moves right now? Because the numbers people keep throwing around online are misleading. You see the Bears sitting slightly in the red and everyone panics. Some cap trackers show them around 9 million under. Others show closer to 7 million under. That small gap usually comes from projected draft class estimates and accounting timing, but either way, the headline is the same. On paper, the Bears look tight. In reality, they are one of the most flexible teams in the entire league. The projected league salary cap is expected to land around $304 million, give or take. We usually get the final number in mid to late February. And once that becomes official, the Bears are sitting in a position where they can move quickly and aggressively without destroying their future. This is not a desperate roster trying to survive. This is a roster that finally has multiple levers it can pull. There are 4 real paths to creating cap space this offseason. Not fantasy. Not reckless. Real, practical moves. The first path is straightforward cuts. The biggest and most uncomfortable name on that list is Tremaine Edmunds. His current cap hit is about $17.4 million. If the Bears move on from him, they save roughly $15 million while eating only a small amount of dead money. And this is where the hard conversation starts. Edmunds has not been consistent since arriving in Chicago. He dealt with injuries this season. He is getting older. And when you are paying premium linebacker money, you expect premium impact. That simply has not been the case. This is the one large contract cut that truly jumps off the page. Now compare that to some of the other higher-profile contracts. Cole Kmet carries a cap hit of about $11.6 million. Cutting him would save about $8.4 million. DeAndre Swift's cap hit sits around $8.8 million and would save about $7.5 million. Jalen Johnson's cap hit is roughly $24.5 million but only frees about $6.5 million if you cut him. Montez Sweat is around $25 million and only clears about $6.9 million. Those last two simply do not make sense to touch from a pure value standpoint. If you are going to make one serious cut among the high-dollar players, Tremaine Edmunds is the only one that truly makes financial and roster sense unless he were willing to take a dramatic pay reduction. There are also a few smaller contracts that can be cleaned up without hurting the core of the roster. A special teams contributor who struggled to stay healthy can be replaced for less than the roughly $2 million in savings created by cutting him. A depth player who has not carved out a consistent role can free another small chunk. A young runner who never fully claimed a spot can clear about $1.5 million. A fringe offensive lineman could free just over $1 million. Stack those small decisions together, and suddenly you are adding $4 to $5 million on top of the Edmunds savings. Put it all together, and the Bears can generate close to $20 million simply through one major cut and a handful of logical roster trims. That alone pushes them from slightly under the cap to safely into the green. And that is only the first category. The second and far more powerful lever is contract restructures. Under General Manager Ryan Poles, the Bears have mostly avoided heavy restructures. That has been intentional. You do not want to push money forward when you are not winning. That is how teams trap themselves in endless cap problems. But there is a difference between reckless restructuring and strategic restructuring. The Eagles restructure constantly because they are competing every year. The Saints restructured endlessly while losing. There is a massive difference. The Bears are now entering the window where this tool actually becomes appropriate. Here are the realistic restructure candidates, and what they could create this season. DJ Moore carries a cap hit of about $28.5 million. A restructure could free up to $16.8 million this year. Montez Sweat could create roughly $9.9 million. Joe Thuney could free about $7.6 million. Drew Dalman could free about $5 million. Jonah Jackson could clear roughly $6.9 million. Kyler Gordon could clear about 6.1. Cole Kmet could clear roughly 4.4. There are others, but not all restructures are created equal. You are not simply moving money. You are committing to that player being on your roster next season as well. That is why you do not blindly restructure 10 players at once. The smart version of this plan focuses on players you truly believe will remain foundational pieces. That brings the conversation to the interior offensive line. Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, and Drew Dalman are exactly the type of contracts that make sense to restructure. Interior linemen age better. Their skill sets remain stable. And there is real confidence that all three will still be part of the team 2 seasons from now. Those 3 moves alone create a large amount of space. Then there is Kyler Gordon. Yes, the injury history makes this slightly uncomfortable. But when healthy, his value to the defense is obvious. His extension has just begun. And his cap structure allows the Bears to clear about $6 million immediately. Those 4 restructures alone can generate roughly $25.5 million. And the Bears would still retain long-term flexibility. Combine that with the roughly $10 million created through cuts, and now you are sitting around $35 million in available space without touching any controversial names. Now the conversation shifts to the most sensitive and impactful decision of the entire offseason. DJ Moore. This is the moment where front offices separate themselves. His cap hit of $28.5 million is simply too large to ignore. And unlike other big contracts, his deal offers real flexibility either through a restructure or through a trade. This is the key difference between Moore and players like Montez Sweat or Jalen Johnson. With Moore, you can create more than $16 million of relief. With the others, you are limited to roughly $6 or $7 million no matter which route you take. That gives the Bears leverage. It also forces a decision. The Bears already have multiple young receivers in place behind Moore. They also rely heavily on Sweat as their best defensive lineman. And when Jalen Johnson is healthy, he is clearly the top corner on the roster. That is why Moore becomes the pivot point. And this is the moment for the question of the day, and I want your honest answer in the comments below. Would you trade DJ Moore to unlock cap space and future assets, or would you restructure his contract and commit to him for at least another season? Either path lowers his cap hit this year. The difference is what you commit to long term. Personally, the numbers push this toward a trade being slightly more likely. But both outcomes achieve nearly the same financial result. If the Bears move Moore through a trade or restructure, they can create roughly $16 million in space. Now add that to the previous moves. You are suddenly sitting above $50 million in workable cap room. And remember, that is without restructuring every possible player. It is without touching several contracts that could still be used later if necessary. The third lever is extensions. This category is smaller in immediate savings, but it matters for roster stability. Darnell Wright stands out as a future extension candidate. His deal would likely not create major savings this year and might even slightly increase his cap hit, but extending him early protects the team from future market inflation. Cole Kmet is the more interesting case. His cap hit of $11.6 million is slightly high for his role, especially with how the Bears use multiple tight ends. But he is only 26 years old. Many fans still think of him as approaching 30, but he is not. A team-friendly extension, something in the range of 2 years at a moderate annual number, could lower his 2025 cap hit by several $million. Realistically, you could free close to $7 million this year while keeping a player the organization clearly values. Jalen Johnson is also still in his mid-20s and fits the timeline of this roster. Extending players before they reach their most expensive seasons is one of the healthiest financial habits in the league. When you layer even one of those extensions on top of the previous moves, you are now approaching $16 million in space. And that is still a conservative version of this plan, because there are additional restructures available. There are more minor cuts that could be made. And there are contract tools that could be used later in the offseason if an unexpected opportunity appears. If the Bears truly wanted to go extreme, they could push past $100 million in created space. They should not. But the fact that they can matters. This is where roster management becomes a chess match. The real goal is not simply creating space. It is preserving flexibility through 2027 and beyond. Several contracts already provide natural exit points in future seasons. That allows the Bears to be aggressive now without sabotaging the years when their franchise quarterback becomes significantly more expensive. And that brings us to the larger picture. Caleb Williams is on a rookie deal right now. This is the competitive window every front office dreams about. This is when you add high-end veterans. This is when you absorb big contracts. This is when you are willing to push some money forward because your most important position is financially controlled. This is also why restructuring players you believe in makes sense. You do not restructure players you expect to cut next year. You restructure players you trust to be part of your core. That is the difference between intelligent cap management and panic spending. When you look at the moves laid out here, the Bears remain flexible in future seasons because they still retain the ability to move on from other veterans when the time comes. That allows them to thread the needle. Aggressive now. Disciplined later. And when you zoom out even further, you realize what this flexibility actually buys. It buys the ability to chase a true difference maker on the edge like Trey Hendrickson. It buys the ability to absorb salary in a trade. It buys the ability to be first to the table when a veteran becomes unexpectedly available. It buys options. So when you hear people say the Bears are boxed in financially, do not buy it. They are not. They simply have choices. And choices are power in this league. The only real question left is how bold the front office is willing to be. Because the tools are already on the table.